Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Manchester City have won the Premier League again, third time on the trot, 5 out of the last 6 years, utter dominance. And now there's so much conversation, understandably, about Man City being the greatest. One thing I will say from the off is that this conversation comes around every year, and I get it. A lot of these conversations do come around time and time again, but I wanted to kind of put forward my thoughts on it, because it depends on the parameters. So for me, first of all, I mean, congratulations to Man City. Congratulations to Man City fans. Obviously, continuing to enjoy themselves as they should do. I don't think it ever gets old for them, both the quality that they get to see and the success they seem to enjoy. And of course, this is the start of possibly a treble. And that's, you know, one must beware hubris. That's one thing we must say. What I want to talk about is the usual things I've got written down, right? So, first of all, Man City, let's talk about this side and how great they are. Then I want to talk about lack of drama. Stay with me. Then, talk about how the game is different when you're trying to compare them with, let's be honest, it seems like it's that 99 side that people are using now for this, and why the game is different and how that affects this discussion. I want to talk about 3-year cycles. And I want to talk about the starting 11, because I think that's a big little twist here that people are somewhat missing. And I will show you this at the end, and we'll talk about this, okay? So let's make our way through. First of all, wow, what a team. I got to see them earlier in the week. There was a video, me doing a sort of reaction to that performance against Real Madrid, and being able to see them live, as I've said, that what was so amazing was the positioning as much as anything. They are so well drilled. But then you kind of look around and you go, have they got physicality? God, yeah. You know, you've got Diaz, you've got Stones, you've got Walker with the athleticism, you've got Bernardo Silva who works himself into the ground, Rodri 6 foot plus, Haaland 6 foot plus. So much of that size there. But then the technique, of course, is there as well. But an understanding and fluency of how they play, how they navigate games, both with the ball and, importantly, this is the thing, is without the ball. They really don't concede that many goals. Now, as the season's progressed, they kind of started to railroad teams, and we're thinking, how on earth are you going to stop this team? And in terms of it being a historic season, you know, when we talk about, you know, the goals that Haaland has scored, 36 in the Premier League, like, that is iconic. You know, that's GOAT status when it comes to a season. Of course, it's record-breaking, right? And there is so much quality throughout this team. When you're arguing about them being sort of the greatest, and you're putting them up against the 1999 side, the thing that I think football fans, their sort of gut goes to is, but what about the sort of turning it around against Spurs on the last day at Old Trafford? What about the Champions League? What about that semi-final against Juventus coming back from behind? In terms of drama, this Man City side, over the last few years, and we'll get to the 3-year cycle, but let's focus on this year. In terms of making them the greatest, the drama's not actually been there, really. Like, it's completely fallen away because Arsenal have sort of, you know, their arse has fallen out in the last 10 games, let's be honest. And so, although it was exciting for quite some time, Man City have just sort of pulled away. It's amazing. And when we're talking about those two and who's better, the drama you think is a positive and it makes that team better. But I wonder, because the lack of drama, if you know what I mean, the ability to navigate the Champions League so easily, the ability to navigate the FA Cup so easily, season after season, the ability to get to 90 points at a cruise, really, again. Let me show you that. Let's show you the table. They will, let's be honest, they've got 2 games left. They will get to 90 points again. They'll most likely get to 94 points again. Is that right? Yeah. So for them to do that season after season is amazing. And this season, the fact that there hasn't been that, I mean, there has been that drama. There's been a title race, but not all the way to the wire. You could say that actually that's a positive for Man City when you're putting them up against this Man United side, right? So that's why I wanted to talk about lack of drama. But going to that 3-year cycle as well, Man City have been pushed you know, last season to the final day. And in the season before, you know, absolutely dominated it, I think, from memory. But they've been pushed several times over these sort of 5 out of the last 6 seasons by that great Liverpool side. So there has been drama there, and they have had to continue to reach these levels. When you get to the basic, you know, elements of points, the points are pretty outrageous as well, let's be honest. Look at that. I mean, again, 93 goals, conceding only 31, a goal difference of 62 plus 62. It's amazing. The next argument that gets put forward is how the game is different. I think that is fair, right? The game is different. And I think what you give to that Man United side over this Man City side is the ability to rotate. You know, and I say that quite loosely because if you think Haaland has played loads of games this season, that's how you score 36 goals. You know, Edison's played every game. They have had players who have played regularly, you know, again and again and again. But there has always been that option to bring out players and bring in other players in comparison to that 99 side, right? So I think the 99 side, in terms of having, 16, 17? Like, you guys tell me. I'm intrigued to know, by the way, like, how do you feel about this one? But I would imagine that Man United side had an element of depth. And again, I'm sort of talking myself into circles here because they did have 4 strikers good to go, didn't they? Did they have 4 quality centre midfielders? 3, didn't they? Nicky Butt. Wingers, Blomqvist, Fortune. I think overall you knew what that starting 11 was, right? Apart from the front 2, really. But although it was Dwight Yorke and Andy Cole most of the time, right? So there was an element of depth there, but not the same as you see in the modern game. And also in terms of like the domination of a team and the control of a game, that has changed, I think. But I come back to the idea of like, why has it changed? The reason it's changed is because the football does and technology does, and so that's all part of it, right? But Pep has changed it. Pep's changed the game. He has. He has. So, you know, if the guy who's changed the game and has been there for the entirety of that, and that's his team who are reaching these outrageous heights when there's never been more science to the game or more money in the Premier League, you have to give the plaudits for that one, right? So again, it's how you want to look at it. I think where I get to at this, in terms of trying to make a call on, are these guys the greatest? What I would say is, in terms of this treble, and again, one must beware hubris. But I can see, obviously, Man City winning that game against Man United, and you can see, it's not out of the realms of possibility, this Man City side putting on a show against Inter Milan in the Champions League. And so they would do it with icing and a cherry on top, wouldn't they? If they pump Inter Milan 4-0. So that makes the whole like look of it, the aesthetic of their dominance, even more kind of outrageous. To smash Real Madrid 4-0 and then to smash Inter Milan, if they do. Now, they just need to get over the line. But I think, to sort of end the discussion, you want them to win it impressively. And to a point, if they don't win the Champions League, that feels a little bit harsh, doesn't it? Because they have been such a dominant side. But I think they do. You've got to win that Champions League. You've got to get that done. So, in terms of my final decision on this, I think in terms of this single season, I'm struggling to give it to them. Just because when I look at the lineup, so on a 3-year cycle, I think this is the greatest team of all time in the Premier League. Not the greatest team of all time, but the greatest team of all time in the Premier League over this sort of 3-year cycle, because they've been just utterly dominant, and people are running out of steam against them. You know, good sides, and actually even the guys who take them to the last day, they're still able to sort of withstand that, right, and dominate. But let's go back to that. This is the one thing I'm struggling. Here's the question that I'm going to end on. Which team's more iconic? And actually, what is the starting 11 that you will put forward? So if you think about Liverpool, you know that starting 11, right? You know it's Alisson, Robertson, Matip, Van Dijk, Trent, so on, right? And the Man United team, I think you generally know it as well. Okay? Because you use less players and you played those players more regularly. If you have a look at it here, there's different teams throughout the season. Cancelo, of course, was part of it for a large part of the start of that season. And as it's moved on, it's kind of gone to this, right? With Stones playing in midfield. Here's my question. Is that the greatest team of all time? Nathan Ake is the left-sided centre-back. He's been phenomenal this season. I'm not having a go at him. But in terms of remembering, like, the greatest team of all time, is it that? Is it the greatest squad of all time? The greatest Premier League squad of all time? I think that is without question, surely. When you've got Alvarez to bring on, when you've got Foden to bring on, definitely. But is that team more iconic than that Man United 99 team? That's a question. And it might be a generational question where certain people will go certain ways. Let's be honest. How many times have I said that in this video? Rodri, special. Diaz, special. Ederson, special. Gundogan, special. De Bruyne, special. Haaland, special. Mahrez, incredibly underrated. Walker, probably incredibly underrated. So it's close. Because I think there's probably a few gaps maybe in that Man United side as well. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Schmeichel, Neville. Was it Johnson and Stam? Who was alongside Jaap Stam? Maybe I'm missing that one there. Dennis Irwin. Like, they are all... Then you go into the midfield, Giggs, Beckham, Keane, Scholes. That's pretty iconic. York and Cole, both with over 100 goals. I mean, Haaland's going to do that in 3 seasons, let's be honest. It's up for debate. Greatest squad of all time, Premier League squad of all time? Absolutely. Without question. Greatest dynasty of all time? Give us a Champions League and it's yours. Most iconic starting 11 of all time? That's the question I'm not sure about. I'm going to leave that one to you. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you check out the Fallout tomorrow. We're breaking down all the teams that have still got something to fight for as we head into the final week of the Premier League.